Hey, this is your host Ken Chiarelli. Welcome back to Christians for Revival. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into how history is repeating itself in the United States on what happened to Solomon. As you know, King Solomon was one of the wisest men on the earth. God granted him great wisdom because King Solomon asked for wisdom to rule over his people. Unfortunately, Solomon made some very deep mistakes in his ruling, and we're going to see how that relates to the United States today and what's happening today. So let's look at some of the things about King Solomon. Well, one of the things about King Solomon, of course, is that he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. I mean, the man was a sex addict. There's no other way of putting it. He tried everything. He lived extravagantly. He overtaxed the people. And in his way of trying to increase the country's wealth and growth, what he did is he married different wives from different countries. Now, the problem with that is, unfortunately, when you do that, each wife brings their gods and their idol worship into the country. And that's what basically happened to Solomon. He tried everything. He did everything. Now, fortunately for Solomon, towards the very end of his life, we know that what happened. He began to repent and realize that he had made all these mistakes. And these are some of the things that he did. Nothing is new under the sun. Wisdom is better than folly. Because he did everything. I mean, when you talk about a person who tried everything, did everything, he really did do everything. Let's look at the USA today. It was created as a nation not under God because of religious freedom. The King of England was overtaxing the people, number one. He was also ruling as one monarchy and controlling, and he ruled with a hard hand, just like Solomon did. And he, same thing, was very extravagant and had his way and did everything he wanted to. So the United States rebelled, creating the United States of America. And in a very unique way, they created the three branches of government to protect the people so that each one would check and each one would control so that no one part could overthrow the government. Emily gave us the right to have our own guns and gave us moral laws that were based on Judeo-Christian ethics. Now, what has happened over the years, unfortunately, is that we've had a great immigration and great influx of other religions and other cultures come into the country. And we are the melting pot of the world. But with the advent of Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Satanism, all of these things began to influence the country. The next important thing that began to happen is that the church began to fall asleep. Let's be honest, that's what basically happened. The church didn't want to get involved in politics, so it separated itself. After Johnson put a tax code on there that if you got involved in politics, they would pull your taxes. And they basically said, okay, we're going to deal with the religious part, and we're going to forget about politics. Well, they forgot the Great Commission. What is the Great Commission? To disciple, to heal the sick, cast out demons, and make disciples of all men. They stopped doing that. And they got involved in their own little worlds and their own little churches. Not all churches, but some. And what began to happen is those leaders, those people who were influenced by idols, and all other things began to get involved. Now let's look back at Solomon and see what happened after he died. Now, as I was saying, all of these wives brought their idols and their religious beliefs. So when Solomon died, the new king took over, and he began to do just the opposite of everything. He threw God out of basically his country, out of the schools, out of everything. He went even so far as to put chains and locks on the temple so God's people couldn't go worship. Do you follow? COVID, the churches were closed. Oh, wait a minute. There's a similarity here. Then he began to idol worship to the God that his mother raised, and he began to idol worship and kill babies, child sacrifice. They would take a child into this statue, into this bronze statue, and throw the baby in it. And they would be tapping drums back and forth, so as the baby screamed while it died in the fire, no one could hear it. Kind of full birth abortion. You're catching where this is going? At the same time, he was totally into all kinds of sexual sin, all kinds of depravity, and things of that nature. Basically, threw out Yahweh completely out of the country. And Israel split into two separate countries, literally Israel and Judea. Well, what's happening today? We're looking at a division of two trains of thought, the Judeo-Christian thinking and the other, where if you tell the truth, you're attacked, you're put down. And now we're seeing a huge rise in anti-Semitism, which is just going to be the next step to Christianity. We're already seeing in parts of the world where people's homes are being burned while the people are in it. And it's just a matter of time before that happens here. And what are we going to do? Well, let's look back in Solomon's time and see who was raised up and what happened. So let's look at what happened after it. We had King Hezekiah. King Hezekiah was 20 years old. He was raised up, and he became king. Now, he was raised on the other half of the coin. He was raised as a Jew. He knew the rules. He knew God's laws. He knew everything. So the first thing he did is he started to tear down all the temples, to tear down all the idol worship, and tried to bring the country back to a godly rule under the Ten Commandments. All of these things. He unlocked the temple. He allowed for worship again. Sounds like somebody we know who was starts with a T and ends with a P and was president. So take back the country and started moving things back. But unfortunately, this leader also had a problem with pride. And as he had a problem with pride, he began to think that it was not God who did this. It wasn't Yahweh who did this for him. He did all this. In fact, he made that mistake and began to be bragging and saying, "Look how great we are! Look at how I did! Look at my wealth!" And he brought the king of Babylon over and showed him all his wealth and all that they had. And you know what that creates, right? When you have everything, someone else sees it, you got it, and they want it. And they wanted, and the king of Babylon planned, of course, to take that back, which later on, because of his pride, led the country into captivity in Babylon. Well, let's look at what's happening today. What's happening today? We have a lot of pride. We have a lot of leaders who are showing off, and look at how much power we have. Look at how many missiles we have. Look at all the things we have. At the same time, we're not following God. We're allowing abortion, full birth abortion. We can't even decide whether girl or boys. We got everything that is by the Ten Commandments and by God's rule that says this is an abomination is continuing. And now we have a president who has allowed thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in with all kinds of belief systems. We don't know who they are. What could happen next? Well, I'll tell you what could happen next. Just like with Babylon, we could have a civil war in this country. That's right. We could have a civil war. Because in those people, how many of those people are, we don't know what they were vetted. We don't know what they're like. And who are we going to go to protect this country? God? Well, you threw them out of our schools. You threw them out of our... And you're locking up our churches. You're telling our ministers they can't talk, they can't do. And in fact, many of the churches refused to step up and push back. So what can you do? you can write your congressman. You can get involved. You can get involved in local politics, the school board, and things of that nature. You can pray for our leaders. It says that you're supposed to pray for our leaders so that it may go well with you. Don't sit back and be quiet. Fight. Because if you don't fight, just like what's happened in Egypt, where they were about to build a Christian church. Well, you know what happened in the middle of the night? Hundreds of homes with the Christians in them were burned to death. I mean, you never heard a single word on the news about it. But you did hear about when Hindus attacked Islamic people. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, I hope this information has opened your mind to start thinking about, are we on the wrong path? And are we going to follow what Solomon's mistakes did by allowing all of this other stuff to get involved? We need to put back the Ten Commandments back. We need to start having a moral compass in this country. And we need to get the proper tax code. Because if it continues on this, it is just a matter of time before the country falls, if it hasn't already. Again, this is your host, Ken Chiarelli. I hope this information has been helpful for you. I hope it has opened your eyes. I ask you to pray. And as we do it at the end of every show, if you're not a Christian and you're starting to believe that maybe Christianity is the way to go, I'd like you to say the sinner's prayer. Lord, I believe that you are the only God. There is no Islam, there is no Buddhism, there is no Hinduism, there is nothing else. Lord, I believe that you sent your son to die on a cross. He was raised from the dead, and because of that I can have eternal life. And therefore I ask you to accept me, forgive me, and make me your own. And if you've done this prayer, please put it in the comments. And also, get a Bible. Good King James Bible or good NIV Bible. Start reading it. Start at the book of John. That'll help you. Then go into the book of Acts. Find yourself a good Bible-based church. And continue. Anyway, I'll be back with more information, more things about ways that you can learn, that you can help bring revival to this country. This is Ken Chiarelli out. Have a great day.